Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm taking a look at Kitty Pryde, and I know at this point that most people are probably not too interested in the character or the uniform, so I'll try to keep it brief. And also, to jazz it up a little bit, I'm also doing a crystal coupon giveaway. If you want to participate in that, make sure to go over to my Discord channel. You'll find the link in the description of the video below. And then join the Discord channel and leave a comment on this YouTube video with your Discord name so that if you win the crystal coupon, I know who to give it to. This uniform is actually pretty solid, not only because it is her first one, but it really increases her damage and does actually make her somewhat useful in Alliance Conquest. However, the uniform also sucks because of one major downfall that kind of just ruins everything. My first impressions when trying out the new character was that she wasn't really that great, although I probably could have finished stage 99 of Thanos. I ended up dying in the last few seconds with only a few seconds remaining to finish the stage anyway, but regardless, finishing stage 99 within a 5-minute time frame isn't really the best performance. She obviously does much better versus Proxima because you can utilize the all defense down on the 5th skill, and because most of her finishing skills, or the skills that you will use at the end of the combo, are either partial iframes or full iframes, meaning that you can pretty much just avoid all the damage that the boss does, as well as keeping them from doing other skills and moving around. Once you unlock the T3 skill, that's when the character actually becomes somewhat good. The T3 skill itself not only has a damage proc, but has a lot of hits, so you basically want to stay in that. As you can see in this clip, with the T3 skill, I was able to complete the same stage about 2 minutes faster. Versus Proxima, the clear time wasn't improved as much because the clear time was already pretty quick, almost finishing within 60 seconds anyway. By the way, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I don't have a damage proc on Kitty Pryde, and most often I don't test characters with a damage proc until later, after I see their performance with their base damage and no kind of alterations to it. The thing that I found really interesting is when I took her into stage 9 of Knull to give me a better idea of how she compares to the overall roster, since Knull 9 is basically where I test most of the characters, she actually performed better than Professor X with these same conditions. She finished the stage with around 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining, whereas Professor X was somewhere in the 3 minutes remaining mark. Based on these results, you can kind of see that the character is pretty strong for PvE, and if you do want to build her specifically for that, then a CTP of Rage I think would be the best option because she has guaranteed crit in her kit, and because a bunch of her skills kind of need to be delay cancelled so you can get the most out of that build. However, you can somewhat make a single skill damage proc function like an energy or possibly a destruction, but it won't be nearly as good. However, even with those recommendations, I would kind of hold off from building her for PvE since she doesn't perform nearly as well in the higher stages due to the fact that she's missing Ignore Dodge for most of her kit, with the exception of the ultimate, which gives her about 80% for 8 seconds, but that doesn't really cut it once you get to those higher stages and you need it more consistently to be able to actually complete the fight. You would kind of think that this is the reason why I mentioned at the beginning of the video that the character kind of sucks, but that's not really it. The main reason is because the 3rd skill damage is kind of tied to the summon that Kitty Pryde has. So when she uses the 3rd skill, the damage doesn't come from the character directly, but from the summon that actually has a health bar. The main issue with this is that the skill basically doesn't work most of the time. The summon either gets trapped by CC effects or gets stuck somewhere, so if you try to do the 3rd skill and kind of delay cancel it as you should in the rotation, you have to wait till the summon gets into position to actually use the skill. And what's worse is that the summon can actually also be killed, so your 3rd skill basically just becomes useless, and the only thing that you get is the buff effects from it, but not the damage, which is really important because the 3rd skill does a lot of damage to the opponent. As you saw in that previous clip, not only was she not able to complete the first phase in under 2 minutes, but she couldn't even complete it in 3 minutes, which is basically the time you're given by the game. I redid the stage, this time using her own leadership and 2 supports to see if that made a significant difference, But although she was able to complete the first phase in time, she still couldn't complete the fight entirely and ended up failing with around 7 health bars left. This emphasizes how broken the third skill is, because other characters that have completed stage 9 of Knull so quickly, characters like Moonstone, Shuri, Kamala Khan, have been able to easily complete stage 29 even without full supports and leaderships. Again, because the third skill is so kind of clunky, the rotation that you usually would want to perform is a 3 delay cancel after the summon shoots out the fireball, and then you do a 5 delay cancel once she hits the ground with a part of the ship, and then go into the fourth skill. That is the ideal rotation that you would use with something like a rage, but because the third skill doesn't really work most of the time, you can just quick cancel the third skill and do the rest of the rotation. And that's why I said that you can also make a single skill damage proc work because of the way the third skill interaction is. You can also quick cancel the first and second skill to fill up your ultimate quicker, and once you have it available, you basically just do the same rotation, the 3 delay cancel 5, delay cancel 4, but this time you cancel the 4 and then kind of proc or do most of your damage on the ultimate skill. Again, you can see that even though she did so great on stage 9 of Knull, and most characters that do that well can easily complete the first phase of Giant Boss Raid Dormammu when they have the type advantage, she unfortunately couldn't and was a little bit short on time, mostly because of how clunky the third skill is. For people that initially thought she might have been good for Alliance Battle Legend, either for the Speed Hero Day or for the Mutant Day if they didn't have some of the more expensive mutants, I would recommend against it. She performed horribly. Even though I did have an insight and no damage proc, she should have easily been able to score 1,000,000, but again, that third skill and the way that her overall kit works, she struggled a lot in this mode, and I wasn't even able to score 1,000,000 points within the 3-minute time frame. The character is actually somewhat decent in PvP, though she will mostly function as a mid-level Alliance Conquest character. The main reason for that is because she doesn't have the tools in her kit to function at a high level in timeline and versus characters that are meta, because she doesn't have things like iframe ignore or even proper penetration. She has penetration that is up to 80% that I believe doesn't include invincible, which is really horrible because you can't even build her with a destruction. It'll basically overwrite that, so you're kind of stuck in this weird level where you don't have penetration and you can't get it. Worse yet, the AI never really prioritizes the third skill, so you basically don't have healing and you can't really opt for something like a regen because you won't make use of the recovery. Essentially, you would want to build the character either with something like a greed, or I would think better yet, a CTP of authority to make her a bigger nuisance versus those mid-level characters. The reason that she performs so well versus them is because the AI opens with the 5th skill, which gives her damage accumulation, is a full iframe skill, and has super guard break on it, so you're basically not able to be targeted if the opponent doesn't have iframe ignore, and better yet, the 5th skill also has high priority, meaning that you'll go into that. In addition to that, her kit also provides her with an iframe if she gets hit, that gets activated at some point, so you have a lot of protection with iframes, invincible, and a lot of skills that have iframe. I only really got to test her in one fight, but you can see that even versus opponents that have reflect damage on them, she doesn't die instantly because she goes in those iframe skills and avoids the reflect damage back to her. Keep in mind that I'm running an insight, so she doesn't even have guard break immunity, and you can get a better view of her survival in this particular fight because she doesn't die instantly versus characters like Jean and Wolverine. That's pretty much the review for the character. At the moment, I wouldn't really recommend her because she doesn't provide you with anything in your overall roster. They bumped up her leadership, but now there's better characters that also provide support capabilities like Polaris. And as a standalone, that third skill is so clunky that it doesn't really serve a function in PvE. And on the PvP side, they didn't give her tools in her kit to be able to perform at a high level, and actually even hindered her by giving her penetration at a high percentage that doesn't include invincible on it. If that penetration was at a lower percentage, like maybe 50%, and included invincible, and she potentially got an iframe ignore in her kit, or maybe it activated once she got hit and went into iframe, or maybe through an artifact, then the character would actually be really good for PvP. But unfortunately, that's not the case, and she's kind of average to below average in PvE and PvP overall. These updates that give upgrades to characters that don't really have any meaningful value and don't really make them useful anywhere are kind of growing thin on me, and I really hope the next major update has some serious game mode improvements and game changes. I also really hope that they get King right on the first try when he eventually comes out, because I really don't want to do a rant video and beg them to improve the character if he is at a very high cost, being either native tier 2 or native tier 3. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and possibly share it with others if you think it'll help them out. Definitely helps me out. And also don't forget to leave a comment with your Discord name so I know who to contact. As always, I appreciate people taking the time to watch my videos, so thank you, but the video is now over.